The Swiss Family Robinson is an adventure fiction book by Swiss author Johann David Wyss. It tells of the adventures of a Swiss family shipwrecked on their way to settle in Australia. First published in 1812, The Swiss Family Robinson was well received by all audiences. It is still to be found on many reading lists for upper elementary and middle school students. In it, the characters model both resourcefulness and adaptability while experiencing many exciting adventures. Besides its entertainment value, this book offers practical instructions on self-sufficiency, a trait highly valued on America's frontier in the mid-19th century. Author Jules Verne declared that The Swiss Family Robinson was one of his favorite books. In fact, he ended up writing a sequel, The Castaways of the Flag, in 1900. The author Johann Wyss was born May 28, 1743 in Bern, Switzerland. Not much is known about him, but it is believed he modeled the family in The Swiss Family Robinson after his own family. Like William Robinson, he was a married pastor with 4 sons. It is said that he was inspired by Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, but wanted to write a story from which his own children would learn, as the father in the story taught important lessons to his children. God is very real for the Robinson family. When they are shipwrecked, they realize immediately that they must rely on God to save and sustain them. The father, a preacher, tells them, God will save us, for nothing is impossible to him, and leads them in a prayer. He and his wife Elizabeth keep a prayerful watch through the night and wait for the storm to abate. They trusted in God's sovereignty implicitly. During the storm in which they are wrecked, when all seems lost, the father gently reminds his family, if the Lord will, he can save us even from this fearful peril. If not, let us calmly yield our lives into his hand, and think of the joy and blessedness of finding ourselves forever and ever united in that happy home above. Throughout the whole book we see reminders of their faith in God's ability to provide and protect. William Robinson is the father and head of his house. Mr. Robinson is an intelligent, resourceful Swiss who, with his family, is shipwrecked on an island near New Guinea. He is a pastor who firmly believes in God's goodness and sovereignty. Because of his good sense, practical knowledge, and understanding of human nature, he and his family succeed in establishing themselves on the island with European-type civilization. Elizabeth Robinson is the mother of the family. She is an intelligent, brave, and hard-working woman who is in her way as resourceful as her husband. She improvises a great deal in making her family comfortable and happy. Her tasks are housekeeping and care of the crops and animals. She, too, firmly believes in God, and with her husband they raise their 4 boys to honor their Maker. Fritz Robinson is the oldest of the boys. He was 14 when the book began. At first he is rash, with a quick temper, often speaking harshly to his brothers. But he grows up on the island to become a gentlemanly, courageous young man. He learns how to accept responsibility and to carry out difficult tasks requiring initiative and courage, leading his brothers to success through his example. Jenny Montrose, or Emily as some translations of the book call her, is a young English girl shipwrecked on a nearby island. Jenny is the daughter of an English officer and was on her way home from India when she was wrecked. She manages to survive through her ingenuity and resourcefulness and sends an albatross out with a message. Fritz finds her message and brings her to his family's settlement. She is a sweet girl who prefers to be out of doors and is very good with animals, thanks to her tomboyish upbringing in India. Ernest is the second oldest of the Robinson boys. At the beginning of the book he was incredibly lazy, one time refusing to bring his family some oysters he had discovered, as he could not get at them without wetting his feet. Later on, however, he grew to be a useful, hard-working boy, although he still did prefer to remain at home with his mother while the other boys were out and about. While he was just 12 at the beginning of the book, he had a great interest in natural history, and his previous studies helped the family very much, for he was able to identify plants and animals for various purposes when his father could not or wasn't around. Jack was the 3rd oldest of the boys. He was very young when the book began, just 10. He also showed signs of temper, which he conquered later on in the book, becoming more steady and responsible as time went on. He contributed to the family's welfare by helping his mother tend to the animals and crops. He said once that the height of his ambition was to be the best rider and the best shot in New Switzerland. Beyond that, he had no thoughts of grandeur. Franz, also known as Francis, was the youngest of the boys, being just 8 when the family was shipwrecked. He was the baby of the family and somewhat naive when the story began, but grows up to be an intelligent, active boy who was always ready to do whatever needed to be done. He was very ambitious and was determined to go to Europe to study and advance himself in the world by his own hard work. Throughout the whole book we see that the Robinson family's trust in God, his sovereignty over their lives, never wavers. At the end of chapter 1, once the family has reached the island, Wyss wrote, "We too were ready for repose, and offering up our prayers to God, thanking him for his many mercies to us, we commended ourselves to his protecting care, and, as the last ray of light departed, closed our tent and lay down to rest." Perseverance is also a common theme in the book. The boys are encouraged by their parents to work at the task at hand until they have completed it. Often, the boys grow impatient, but their father refuses to let them quit until they have accomplished their task, though sometimes he will help them work through their problems. Probably one of Wyss's favorite themes was family. He believed family was to stick together through thick and thin. He writes in the last chapter, "How good and pleasant a thing it is when brethren dwell together in unity under the eyes of parental love." The book shows the way the Robinson family works together to survive on the island they know little about, counting on each other to do their own work to make life easier for them all. The Swiss Family Robinson shows us the necessity of faith in God to care for us, perseverance in continuing to do what is hard, even if you don't want to, and having family to rely on and care for us when we are in trouble.